Before I start, I want to make something very clear. The biggest issue with Everglow is unquestionably Yuehua. Plain and simple. If a K-pop group isn't being promoted properly, if they aren't releasing music as often as they should be, and if they aren't getting the recognition they deserve for their hard work and talent, 99.9% of the time, the company's negligence and incompetence is the culprit. They have the biggest impact on a group's success because they have the money and connections. And we have been shown, time and time again, that Yuehua is negligent and incompetent in managing Everglow, and nearly all of their artists at this point. There is simply no excuse for a company the size of Yuehua to give Everglow year-long breaks between mini and single albums and bare minimum promotions. Everglow is a 4-year-old group with a discography that barely cracks double digits, something that even Blackpink, the poster child for inactive girl groups, managed to surpass. All of these things contribute to Everglow slowly fading into obscurity, to wait out the remainder of their contracts trapped in the walls of their company. But pretty much anyone aware of this situation knows this. Bringing up that it's Yuehua's fault at this point is moot. We know that they're a shit company. Anything that could be said about what they do wrong has already been said. None of us are high-up Yuehua employees with any influence, so at the end of the day, we are powerless. With that in mind, I think that now's the time to look inward at what we can do as a fandom to make their future as a group successful. I've noticed on YouTube that much of the talk about K-pop fandom culture is relaying information, whether it be about a situation that happened in a fandom, or giving an opinion on which fandoms are toxic or problematic. And while there isn't a problem with content like this, there is a pretty clear lack of introspective fandom discussion that comes from within our own spaces. A lot of the analysis I see in video essays on this site comes from an outsider's POV, which often results in a lot of broad generalizations of fandom behaviors and psychology purely based on the most well-known, and sometimes infamous, K-pop fandoms. This is kind of what motivates me to make this video. Maybe it's just my STEM brain, but I think it's crucial to understand why things happen, rather than saying this is how I feel about this with no elaboration. We can say which fandoms we think are toxic all day long, but unless we can provide an explanation for why fandoms do the things they do, then we aren't going to get anywhere. I've been a K-pop fan for almost 10 years now, and in online fandoms in general for even longer. I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but there are trends and patterns in fandom culture that I've picked up on over the years, and hopefully my little online geek manifesto makes sense to you all. In this case, I want to talk about what I like to call fan marketing. No, not in the vein of payola and TikTok viral videos, but in how a fandom presence can influence a group's popularity. As much as we would like to think that we're into K-pop for the music and for the idols, general online fandom attitude has a lot of weight in whether someone decides to stan a group or continue stanning a group. A lot of the fun in stanning is finding other people who like the same group you like, sharing edits and memes, discussing lore and which B-sides are the best, and so on and so forth. Luna, for example, had a unique and clever marketing strategy from the get-go, yes, but you'd be hard-pressed to find an orbit in the early days of Luna who didn't know Twinfish's theory videos, or who wasn't saying stan Luna in any scenario, at any possible opportunity. At this point, it is a rite of passage for any sapfic ship to be drawn as Eve and Chu from the Heart Attack music video. Orbits took Luna from a girl group with a great concept to a cultural phenomenon, which brought people from all walks of life on the internet and made the fandom what it is today. Dreamcatcher fans have harnessed a similar strategy, having their own fandom culture, quotable memes, and often go out of their way to recommend Dreamcatcher to metalheads and other rock fans, people who would probably brush off K-pop as a genre that holds no complexity and diversity. And don't get me wrong, this does not need to be a competition as to who is the most not like the other girls in terms of concept. Any K-pop group can have a vibrant fandom culture if the fans simply know what their group's strengths are and put their best foot forward to capture the hearts of potential fans. In addition, having friendly connections within fandom is crucial for photocard trading, group orders, and in organizing real-life events like birthday cafe meetings and forming groups to go to concerts with. It always gets me hyped for a K-pop concert when I look around and see a bunch of lovable nerds at the venue, with their light sticks and cardboard cutouts in tow, dressed in outfits from the music videos. And even if I don't remember anyone's names, I'll remember the kinship we shared, how we complimented each other's t-shirts, and talked about how we hope our biases will notice us in the crowd. I know tons of people who have made close friends by going to K-pop concerts and meeting fans in the local area. As corny as it may seem, K-pop really does bring people together. These aspects of K-pop fandom keep people from getting bored waiting in between releases, and what allows them to create positive memories associated with the group. Which, in turn, will motivate people to spend money on these groups by buying albums, concert tickets, and fan call events. In short, fan marketing is more about advertising the fandom as a means to promote idols, rather than simply promoting the idols themselves. This concept isn't exclusive to K-pop. In fact, many of the biggest fandoms are as well known as they are because of this. In the early 2010s, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic started out as a means of selling toys to little girls in the form of a TV show, as My Little Pony always had been. But as adults, particularly adult men, started enjoying the show, with its quippy, quotable one-liners and pop culture references, it gained a huge cult following that spawned memes, fan art, fan-made plushies, fan music videos, fan songs, fan animations, and even fan-made video games. They even started coming up with names for notable background characters, which became named recurring characters as an homage to the fans. Fans even came up with a name for themselves, bronies, and started their own exclusive conventions nationwide, which drew thousands of people of all ages. And all it took was people simply promoting a show they liked, and using a little creativity to do it. Of course, the fandom wasn't perfect, and there definitely were certain groups of people who made the fandom experience not so great, but one thing that is unquestionable is that the brony fandom has a legacy that precedes it, and it's what keeps the fandom going, even after the show has long since ended. Now, with that tangent out of the way, I want to bring this video back to Everglow. Because I'm sure you're watching this wondering why I'm info-dumping about the adult nerd fans of a children's cartoon. Right, back to Everglow. I've been a fan of Everglow since 2020. When I heard La Di Da for the first time, I knew I was hooked. The impeccable 80s synth sound that rivaled the likes of Wonder Girls' Rewind album, the stunning vocals, the eye-catching choreography, and the infectious charisma that all 6 ladies of Everglow had, it was a perfect recipe for a group that I'd fall in love with. The rest of the songs on that mini were great enough that I went back and listened to all that Everglow had to offer, songs I'd skipped over during the comeback rushes, or songs I initially disliked but wanted to give a second chance, and I was thoroughly impressed. And even with Everglow's variety content being few and far between, the content I did see showed off the fact that these girls had great senses of humor and adorable personalities beyond the cool girl attitude they showcased in their music videos. And so, as one often does, the next step was christening myself as a member of the Everglow fandom, forever, and finding other fans to chat with. This is where my journey into foreverdom began to hit some roadblocks. I started noticing that while there were a lot of people who posted about liking Everglow, very few of them seemed to consider themselves forevers. Or, at the very least, they seemed to focus overwhelmingly on other groups as opposed to Everglow. When I went on YouTube, there was a distinct lack of Everglow-focused compilations or fan-made content, too. And when I did meet forevers, when we would be in group chats together, it was almost like a light switch, how quickly the engagement and activity dropped off when the comebacks ended. Hell, even during comebacks, it seemed like people didn't really have much to talk about other than, almost paradoxically, how to increase Everglow's popularity. We would be linking each other polls to vote on, where the winner would receive a small boost in music show votes. We would talk about hashtags to use to get Everglow-related posts more engagement. Or sometimes we would just promote our own posts to each other and say, give this a retweet or a like. It felt less like a group chat of fans socializing and more like a group of social media interns trying to concoct the best business strategy for Everglow, except that none of us had any professional experience in that, whatsoever. And as Everglow, at the point of writing this, have finally announced their comeback, after almost 2 years of being gone from the music scene, I'm begrudgingly seeing the exact same types of posts on Everglow fan accounts. Now, I'm going to be very frank and honest with every forever who watches this. This is not out of hate for anyone. In fact, I'm saying this because I care a lot about this fandom. But things need to change if we are going to help Everglow gain some popularity. Here is where we fall short. Firstly, the hashtag posts, for the sake of getting to the trending tab on Twitter, need to stop. Nothing is more of a turnoff for me than finding an Everglow fan account and seeing their profile swarming with nothing but hashtag spam. We are K-pop stans on Stan Twitter, not Michaela from high school who's trying to promote her newest pyramid scheme. What is the point of us trending if all potential fans will see our identical posts that have nothing funny or interesting to say? A few relevant hashtags are fine, of course, but your posts on your fan account should not exist for the sole purpose of trending on Twitter. And I may be a geriatric hag by Twitter standards, but even I know that you should be keeping up with the times in terms of memes and trends, and not making MS Paint memes that came straight out of 2014. This can be easily solved by venturing outside of Everglow Twitter and looking at what kinds of posts get attention in other K-pop fandoms. I mentioned Luna previously, but I think it's worth mentioning again that Orbits were nothing if not attention-catching in terms of how well they promoted Luna through funny memes. Not only is this a good way of promoting a group in terms of simply getting their name out there, but also gives the impression that Forevers are a fandom that don't take themselves too seriously and makes it an inviting place to be. Not to mention that we have great editors and fan artists in our fandom, it's just a matter of promoting their content. Fostering a creative section of our fanbase is great for giving fans other things to look at and do when Everglow aren't promoting, and makes the hiatuses go by a little faster. With that out of the way, let's tackle the more challenging beast. Voting and streaming. Let me say this before you comment. Voting and streaming on Korean platforms is incredibly important for music show wins. Almost every music show in existence, besides the show, relies almost entirely on digitals for scoring. I am not saying we shouldn't encourage fans to vote or stream. However, here is where I'm going to ask a very simple question. Why is it that we have to make sure every single Forever votes and streams? Why is it that we always need the help of other fandoms to get our wins? Why is it, even with every possible Forever and another fandom, possibly multiple, on deck and voting, that we barely manage to win? Let me ask another simple question. Is it more likely that the few fans who decided not to vote made all the difference? Or is it maybe that we just need more fans? Do Forevers not see how unsustainable it is? To be begging to the few fans that Everglow has left, and to the one or two fandoms who Forevers consider to be quote-unquote nice to us? As I stated before, we cannot control when Yuehua decides to give Everglow comebacks. So, naturally, a lot of Everglow fans, even if well-intentioned, are going to get tired of waiting the longer this goes on, which makes it that there are even less Forevers who are going to vote on these shows. But one thing that gatekeeps fans from our fandom more than anything is the fact that we have a homophobe problem. Look around you. The vast majority of Stan Twitter is queer. If they come to this fandom and start seeing just how many big accounts are homophobic or transphobic, they'll immediately leave. This is especially true of younger people who use the internet as an escape from homophobes in real life. And in the case of Everglow, we need to promote them to sapphic K-pop fans in particular. I want to make another video talking about this in more detail, but in short, a lot of smaller girl groups rely heavily on having a loyal sapphic fanbase, because in K-pop spaces, attraction is a big factor in people's devotion to their groups. There's a reason why so much of the parasocial crap that K-pop idols do is often romantic in nature. It's supposed to be. And yes, gay male fans of female artists exist, which is also all the more reason to promote Everglow to queer fans as a whole. And something that Everglow needs more of is loyal fans who are willing to spend money on them. I think a lot of Forevers don't truly understand how little revenue streaming gives to companies, much less artists under these companies. And while likes on official Twitter posts can be some indication of knowledge of Everglow as a group, they do not indicate whether these are casual listeners or dedicated fans. So if you're a homophobe or transphobe in this fandom, and you care about the girls' popularity, either educate yourself, leave, or shut up. The thing that makes me the most disappointed and angry about this situation is that we have every ability to make Everglow an appealing girl group to stan. They have high digitals on Spotify for a reason. Plenty of people like listening to Everglow songs, and especially now that the more hardcore EDM style of K-pop isn't so heavily saturating the market anymore, now is the perfect time to get their name out there. The girls have plenty of funny things they've said on V-Lives and Weverse posts, as well as all around having great moments and amazing talent we can promote to new fans. Everglow even has lore that we can show to fandoms we know are all about lore, and have that be one of our selling points. Not to mention that the girls have enough gay-adjacent moments and times they've supported the LGBT+ community to keep sapphic K-pop on their toes for years to come. Now, if Yuehua can make a music video that is vaguely queerbaity enough to get their attention, then we'll be set for life. But the role of quote-unquote queerbaiting in K-pop is a can of rainbow worms we can save for another time. We can easily grow our fandom and help Everglow by getting more people who care about them enough to buy physicals, fan calls, and concert tickets. If we stop trying to keep people out, if we stop trying to have the few people left in our fandom do the work of thousands. I may not talk about them a lot on Twitter, but that doesn't mean that I don't cherish them. All of the girls, Yuehua, Mia, Shihyun, Aisha, Anda, and Irin, are idols who have something special. I want everyone to see the stars they are, and love them the way I do. And with a little bit of work, I think that Forevers can help them shine.